During a family trip, my husband's parents insisted I sit at a separate table. No one spoke to me the entire trip. When I asked my husband, he shrugged. It's just their way. I smiled and said, perfect. I have my own way too. The next morning, they found out what I had done and panic set in. Looking back now, I should have known. Should have seen the signs. The way David's mom, Emma, smiled just a second too late whenever I spoke. The way Richard never asked me a single question the entire first night. It was subtle. Polite even. But it was there. The message. I wasn't part of the family. Not really. We'd only been married 6 months when David suggested the lake house trip. A full week in Lake Placid, he said, all excited. Family time. You'll love it. I wanted to believe him. God, I tried. But from the second we arrived, it was clear I wasn't invited, I was tolerated. Emma planned every meal without asking if there was anything I couldn't eat. Richard decided the daily hikes, the boat outings, the movie nights, all without ever looking in my direction. And when I pulled David aside, trying to quietly ask what was going on, he just shrugged. It's just how they are, you'll get used to it. But I didn't. Instead, I got quiet. Watched. Took notes. I may have smiled through dinner. But I started planning my own itinerary, not just for the trip, for everything. Because if they wanted quiet, I'd give them silence. But not the kind they were expecting. It was the third night, bonfire night, when things officially crossed the line. We were out back near the edge of the lake, fire crackling, everyone wrapped in fleece blankets and sipping wine like some cozy catalog family. Emma stood up, glass in hand, and gave this long-winded toast about how strong families stick together, how loyalty means everything. She didn't look at me once. Not when she said, we protect our own, not when Richard nodded proudly like she was reading from the family Bible. I felt that toast like a slap. But I didn't flinch. I just tightened my grip on the mug and smiled, like I didn't know exactly what she was doing. Then someone mentioned Rachel, David's sister. Emma stiffened. Richard stared into the fire. No one explained. But the tension? Thick enough to choke on. Something had happened. Something they didn't talk about. When I got back to the main house later that night, my suitcase was gone. I found it in the guest cabin. Folded clothes. My books on the nightstand. Even my skincare lined up by the mirror like it had always been there. We thought you'd be more comfortable out here, David said. Like he was doing me a favor. Like he hadn't just packed up my things without a word and helped his mom push me out of the main house like I was an inconvenience. I didn't cry. Not in front of them. I waited. Then I poured myself a glass of wine, sat on the little deck of that damn cabin, and stared out at the water while the wind chilled my legs. I knew what was happening now. This wasn't just about subtle cold shoulders or awkward silences. This was control. This was how they broke people down, one isolated act at a time. But they made one mistake. They thought I was still playing defense. I started keeping receipts, literal ones. I logged the guest list changes Emma made behind my back, the group texts I was mysteriously excluded from, the times David forgot to mention the morning hikes. I smiled when they looked at me. I nodded when they said I should rest. But under it all, I was planning. Quietly. Sharp. Precise. Because if they wanted to play this game, fine. But I wasn't going to lose it. The next morning, I was alone in the guest cabin. Again. No text from David. No knock at the door. Just silence and that stale feeling of being somewhere you're not wanted. So I wandered. The main house was quiet, everyone out on a hike I hadn't been told about, apparently. I moved through the hallways like a ghost, barefoot on the polished wood floors, until I found myself in the upstairs den. That's when I saw it. A photo album on the shelf, spine faded, gold lettering barely legible. Summer, 2018. I opened it. There she was. Rachel. I stared at her for a long time. Hair sun-bleached, smile wide, hand linked with David's. Not some old flame. Not a girl from college. Rachel. His ex-wife. The one he'd barely spoken about, except to say it just didn't work out. Page after page, a Rachel on the dock. Rachel serving burgers in a red apron. Rachel alone in a photo on the porch swing. Isolated. Just like me. When Sarah found me later, I was still holding the album. She closed the door behind her so softly it barely made a sound. "I figured you'd find that eventually," she said. Her voice was low. "Careful." She sat beside me, not too close. They told everyone Rachel left in the middle of the trip. Packed up, drove off, no warning. She paused. But that's not what happened. I didn't say anything. I just waited. "They did to her what they're doing to you," she whispered. Started off small. Changed seating arrangements. Forgot to include her. Told her she was being too sensitive. Sarah looked at me, her face serious in a way I hadn't seen before. "They broke her, Olivia." Slowly. And David, he didn't lift a finger. My throat went dry. She stayed until the end of the week. Then she left him a note on the counter. Never came back. I finally spoke. "Why didn't anyone say anything?" Sarah sighed. "Because nobody wants to be the one to stir the pot around here. But you," she looked me in the eye. "Don't let them control your story too." She stood up and paused at the door. "If you need an ally, I'm around. But be careful. Emma plays long games." And just like that, the mask cracked. Everything made sense. The coldness. The silence. The control. This wasn't new. This was rehearsed. They had done it before. Perfected it. And I wasn't just the next target. I was the next problem. So I made a plan. Not loud. Not messy. Just intentional. Me, a quiet shadow in their perfect little legacy. Watching. Listening. Preparing. Because they may have erased Rachel. But I was going to write my own ending. They wanted quiet. Distance. Obedience. Perfect. I gave it to them. But not the way they expected. That night, while they all sat around the fire pit, sipping wine and trading smug smiles, I stayed in the guest cabin and started planning. I canceled the cleaning staff. My name was on the booking. I pulled my name from the dinner reservations I had made. Every shared thing I had touched? I erased myself from it. No confrontation. No yelling. Just a quiet retreat they didn't see coming. Then I found the key box. Hidden behind some gardening tools in the storage shed, buried under spider webs and old tarps. Labeled neatly, emergency, guest cabin and main house. I took them inside, dusted them off, and smiled. The main house used a smart lock system. David had boasted about it when we arrived. He'd given me the guest code. What he didn't realize was the app still worked on my phone. He hadn't removed me yet. He didn't think he had to. So I changed the code. Not just mine. All of them. Reprogrammed the system so that only one passcode worked. Mine. Then I locked every single door on the main house and walked away like nothing had happened. The next morning, they woke to chaos. I sat on the porch of the guest cabin, wrapped in a soft blanket, sipping coffee. The sun peeked through the trees, lake water sparkling like glass. From where I sat, I could see the driveway. Emma, pacing in a long robe, yelling into her phone. Richard, rattling the doorknob like brute force, would fix a smart lock. David just stood there, barefoot, arms crossed, muttering curses under his breath. They were supposed to be getting ready for their boat day. Matching polo shirts, picnic baskets, champagne flutes. Emma had been planning it all week. Instead, they were locked out. Of their own kingdom. I didn't wave. I didn't smile. I just sat there, legs crossed, watching them scramble. No one had noticed I'd quietly pulled every pin out of their perfect little structure until the whole thing leaned sideways. Now they were fumbling, confused, pissed, loud. And I was quiet. Exactly how they liked me. The door slammed. Someone yelled my name. I didn't answer. Because for once, I wasn't the outsider. I was the one holding the keys. By day 5, they thought they'd regained their footing. They hadn't. The boat day was a bust, sure. But they figured I'd calm down, come to my senses, fall back into line. That's how it always worked in their family. Silence, then sulking, then pretending it never happened. But this time, I wasn't playing that game. That afternoon, the power went out. I heard it before they did. The gentle click of the fridge shutting down. The sudden silence of the central air. The lights in the main house cut all at once like a scene change in a bad movie. Emma's scream came next, sharp, annoyed, almost theatrical. Then Richard's boots stomping down the hallway. David's voice, tight and angry. What the hell is going on? They had no idea. 2 days ago, I had the generator fuel moved. Told the maintenance guy we had a raccoon problem near the shed. Had him relocate the fuel to a different storage unit on the edge of the property. Only one key. Mine. The backup generator? Completely out of reach. Emma lost it first, furious that her curling iron wouldn't turn on, panicking over the fridge full of groceries. Richard barked orders like someone was gonna fix it by shouting. David? David pounded on my cabin door like a cop on a warrant. Olivia. Open the damn door. What did you do? I didn't answer. Instead, I texted him from the only working phone in the house, connected to the guest cabin's battery backup system. Just 4 little words. I'm just enjoying the quiet. He lost it. I heard him yell. I heard Emma crying. I heard something crash inside the main house. Maybe a chair, maybe a glass. Whatever it was, they were spiraling. No power. No control. No plan. Just me, coffee in hand, curled on a couch with a book and a fully charged phone. Later that night, it got worse. A cruiser pulled into the driveway. David had called the sheriff. Claimed I'd left in the middle of the night. That he was worried. That I wasn't answering. I peeked out from behind the curtain. Watched David talking fast, waving his arms, faking panic. And all I could think was, he really thought I'd disappear quietly. He really thought I'd break. But I wasn't the one lost out there in the dark. Not anymore. It was surreal. The knock came just as the sun started creeping past the tree line. I already knew who it was. I'd been expecting it ever since David screamed down the phone to whoever still answered him. He was spiraling. And I wasn't playing along. I opened the door slowly, calmly. Officer Daniels stood there, notepad in hand, his face unreadable. Olivia Parker? He asked. I nodded. That's me. He looked me up and down, saw the hot coffee in my hand, the calm in my posture, the tidy porch behind me. No signs of distress. No chaos. Just quiet. He cleared his throat. We received a missing person report. Of course you did, I said flatly. Would you like to see the truth? I handed him the folder. Neatly tabbed. Photos of me eating meals alone while they dined inside. Screenshots of texts from Emma telling me to stay out of the main house for everyone's comfort. A written statement from Sarah confirming the pattern. Her handwriting was careful, every word calculated. Daniels flipped through it all slowly, his expression shifting as the pages turned. Then I led him inside, where I had a laptop waiting, camera already on. Lauren, I said, you're live. Lauren, Rachel's sister, looked straight into the webcam from her apartment in Vermont. Her face was sharp, angry. She didn't waste time. They did the same thing to my sister, she said. Treated her like a servant. Gaslit her until she broke. She fled this place with nothing, and they told everyone she was unstable. Emma burst into the room mid-call, hair wild, eyes wide. What the hell is this? She snapped. You can't drag our family name through the mud like this. David followed, red-faced, silent now. For once, Rachel's name stopped him cold. Lauren didn't blink. She begged me not to let it happen to someone else. So here I am. Daniels looked around the room. Mrs. Parker has every right to protect herself, he said clearly. This isn't a missing person. This is a woman who's finally had enough. And if I see another false report come through, I'll be filing charges against you. He pointed at David, then at Emma. Silence. Thick and suffocating. And in that silence, I finally breathed. They weren't just exposed. They were done. The silence after the storm was almost louder than the chaos. Sarah moved out first, quietly, with 2 duffel bags and a look I'd never seen on her face before freedom. She slipped me a note as she left. Thank you for saying what I never could. I found it later, tucked under the sugar jar in the guest cabin. I kept it. Richard didn't speak to anyone for days. He just sat on the dock with a whiskey glass and a 1,000-yard stare, like someone who'd lost a war he didn't even realize he was fighting. That man who once barked orders at everyone in the house, now just a whisper of himself. Emma, on the other hand, did what Emma does, filed a public complaint with the HOA, claiming I'd threatened her family's safety and hacked the smart lock. She didn't know I still had the audio clip of her hissing into the phone, "If you don't come back, we'll make things very difficult for you." I posted it. No caption. Just the raw sound of her voice dripping with venom. The internet did the rest. The comments were brutal. Women from every corner lit her up. The story spread fast. #GaslightGate trended for 2 days. And suddenly, Emma's pristine image of old money Grace cracked wide open. 3 days later, David texted. Just one line, I see it now. I'm sorry. I stared at the screen for a long time. Thought about the years I wasted believing he was different. Believing he could be different. I didn't reply. Weeks passed. I started building a new rhythm. Early walks. Real sleep. Coffee that tasted like something instead of survival. Then another message came through. A photo. The lake house. Empty. Still. The caption read, "They're gone. It's just me now." I lost everything. He followed it with a longer message. Said he missed me. That he kept hearing my voice in his head. That he walked past the guest cabin and thought about that last morning, me on the porch, calm as hell, while they scrambled like rats in a storm. He said he wasn't asking to come back. Just to be heard. But the thing is, he already was heard. He just didn't listen. And now? Now it's too late. I never answered David's last message. I didn't need to. Some endings don't deserve a response. Instead, I filed for divorce the same week. Quietly. Without drama. Just a simple signature that said, I'm done. And then I left. I moved to Portland, Oregon. Got myself a little rental near the woods where the air smells like pine and freedom. Started working remotely for a creative firm that didn't care about last names or family politics, just ideas and deadlines. I adopted a rescue dog, a scruffy little mutt named River who sleeps curled up at my feet while I write. The silence here isn't heavy. It's clean, honest, healing. And one crisp fall afternoon, I met Rachel. In person. We sat on a wooden bench overlooking the Columbia River Gorge. The wind was strong, but we just sat there, side by side. She turned to me and smiled. You didn't just escape. You ended it. And she was right. I didn't burn the house down. I just walked out and it collapsed on its own. I smiled back at her, eyes soft but steady. It's not revenge, I said. It's peace. If they keep sidelining you, silencing you, or making you feel small, you don't owe them patience. You owe yourself peace. Set boundaries. Pay attention to the patterns. And remember, walking away isn't failure. It's survival. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stop explaining and start choosing yourself.